Yes, okay. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start with the present passive. So how are we feeling about the present passive? If I asked one of you two, could you recite to me, could you conjugate the present passive if I put you on the spot? Be honest, yes or no? Thomas?
No.
No. Henry?
No.
Oh, okay. Grace?
No.
Oh, okay, right. This is what we need to fix then, because this is probably what's holding you back slightly. So let's write down then present passive. We'll assume they're all passive, so I won't write passive as well. Passives can be your big title at the top. So the present. How am I? Then for the second one, for the you singular, you've got two options. You can have how a like that, or it can be written how a like that, which of course could be confused with the present third person singular, he, she, or it stops. So you've got to really look strongly at the context, but hopefully you will see it in its first form, which is quite different. Then we've got poetai. Then we've got pauometha, pauesthe, and then finally pauontai. Okay, so the translation of this, which is obviously all important, is I am stopped. Or you could also say I am being stopped. Those are your two translations. Here's Felicia. Okay. Now, while we're here, can anybody remember what the infinitive is for the present passive? To be stopped. What's that? Any guesses? Right. Pauesthai. Pauesthai. That's your infinitive. So Felicia, grab a piece of paper or open your exercise book, and we are literally going to write out together all of these passives and go through them this morning, okay? And we're going to compare them next to each other. Is that all right, Felicia?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so there's your infinitive, to be stopped. Okay, now, rather handily, the present passive has exactly the same formation and endings as the present middle passive. So we've got middle here, therefore and passive, and you're going to have to look at context to work out which is the most appropriate usage. So if the passive translation is I am stopped or I am being stopped, what might the middle translation be? Henry, any thoughts? What are your options for a middle translation if that's actually what it is?
I stop myself.
I stop myself, so we could have something reflexive. I stop myself. What else? Anything else? Thomas, anything else?
I get stopped.
Not quite, no. So obviously if I stop myself, actually the most usual translation we find for this verb is if you stop yourself, you cease to do something, don't you? So it's I cease. Now we can also have a middle translation as to make somebody stop, okay? We had that idea of to get the slaves taught. But if I'm quite honest with you, that's pretty rare, okay? And then, of course, your fourth option is actually going to be the equivalent of a deponent verb in Latin. It's going to have an active meaning, but it's got this middle form. So that's option number 4. But pauamai is not a middle, a deponent verb. So middle and passive then, endings are the same for the present tense. And the same thing applies to the imperfect, which is why we did that. straight after the present. That's really why the book organises it like that. So for an imperfect, we're going to have an augment, aren't we? All imperfects have augments. Okay, and then we're going to have our stem, and then the ending is going to be omen, epauomen. Okay. Hello, Asheen. We are writing out our Greek passives and we're touching on middles while we're at it. But it would appear most people can't recite to me their passive endings. So we're writing these out, and I think it would be great if this was on a piece of paper in your book or somewhere where you could grab it. I mean, Charlotte Holiday in the year above keeps this in her pocket. She kept a piece of paper in her pocket with these on. So up to you, but I think writing them out and looking at them is what will help us, Asheen. So welcome. So epauomen is I was being stopped. I'll write my meaning down here because that's your imperfect meaning. I was being stopped, or you could say I was stopped. Okay. And then we get, for the U singular, epau. Then we get epaueto, epauomether, epauesther, sorry, beg your pardon. Epauonto. Okay, so those are your imperfect endings. I was being stopped, you were being stopped, he, sure, it was being stopped, they plural were being stopped. Okay, so augment and a distinctive set of endings for those. Okay, but some of them are overlapping, aren't they, with the present, in the sense that we've got the omether and the es there are very similar actually there, but of course the difference is it's got an augment, and of course the present tense doesn't have that. So similarly, there isn't an imperfect infinitive, by the way. We don't have one of those, we just have an aorist infinitive. But again, this is the form for the middle as well as the passive. Okay, so if it was a middle meaning, we'd have I was stopping myself, or I was ceasing, if you like. Okay, so present and imperfect passives. Right, I'm going to scroll down. You might want to put things to the side, up to you, but I'm probably going to create, I think it might be better for all of us actually, to create a new line for the aorist. Okay. So we attacked the aorist slightly differently because we didn't start off with the aorist passive actually, did we, when we learnt this? Believe it or not, we actually started off with the aorist middle. I imagine largely because this is more common in Greek, okay, and because we were doing the theme of middle verbs. But shall we actually maybe change that up here and actually start with the aorist passive, which we've just done? So the aorist passive then has an augment, then it has the stem, and some of the verbs actually add a sigma to that stem, some of them don't, but pauomai does, so we have a sigma there as well. And then we have the really characteristic and key thing, the theta, okay, for these aorist passives. And then we have all of the endings that we met when we did those root aorists, okay? So eben, ebers, eber, ebermen, eberta, ebersan was the root aorist of bino, I went, okay? So this follows exactly that same pattern. Eben, ebers, there's, epaus there, epaus themen, epaus thete, epaus thesan. Okay? And our meaning here is I was stopped. Okay? I was stopped. Okay, so I think I'm going to put a different line now below for my my middle aorists and their different forms. The great news is that with the aorist passive, we don't have, of course, what we have with lots of other aorists that we do. We don't have a strong and a weak aorist. The verb has its particular form of the aorist passive, and that is it. So that is good news, okay? But they were quite irregular, if you recall. We had things like elerthen for the verb lambano, I was captured. We had erethen for the verb lego, I was spoken, which doesn't really make much sense, to be honest. So, and then we had enechthen for pharaoh, I was carried. So the key thing with these, as we've been practicing, is basically learning those irregular aorist passives, those kind of handful of 4 that we've been practicing lately. Then we've got our aorist middles. And we're going to have a weak one and we're going to have a strong one. So let's start with weak first. So we're going to have an augment, we're going to have the stem, and then just with the active aorist, we're going to have a sigma. And then also like the active aorist, the middle aorist is going to have that really characteristic alpha, and then it's going to be epausamen, okay? Our meaning is going to be I ceased, okay, or I stopped myself for the middle. Then we get quite a strange one for the second person singular. Epausamen, epauso, epausato, epausamatha, epausasthe, epausanto. Okay, so all alphas throughout with an augment. The only one that doesn't have an alpha is the second person, but actually that's actually because technically that's the contraction of that, alpha and omicron. They're put together and they become O. Okay, so that's why it is like it is. It's sort of got an alpha there really, but we can't see it anymore. And our meaning, I ceased or I stopped myself. Okay. Now, for our strong aorists, they follow in a way the same pattern as a strong aorist does in the active, because a strong aorist in the active has an augment, it has a shortened stem, so lambano becomes elab, and then it has actually, for the aorist, a strong aorist, it actually has the imperfect endings. So the aorist strong middle also does exactly the same thing. So we'll take that verb lambano, so we'll have the augment, we'll have the shortened stem, and then we'll have our imperfect passive endings essentially. So elabomen, elabu, elabeto, elabomatha, elabeste, elabonto. Okay? So that would mean I took myself. wouldn't it? I took myself in the case of Lambano. So, not maybe quite as straightforward as Latin. In Latin, we've got, haven't we? We've got aristor, murmini untor, and those endings are used for the present passive, they're used for the future passives, and they're used for the imperfect, barbaris bartor, okay? And then the perfect and the pluperfect in Latin have those two words that come together to make them, don't they? Paratus sum or paratus eram for the pluperfect, the fourth principal part plus the verb to be. Here, though, we've got a few different patterns going on, basically, haven't we? I mean, the whole kind of mutha es there ont, ontai or onta, I think is common to most of these. But with the present, we've got things like omai, but then with some of these middles, we've got amen and omen, which is quite different, possibly, you might think. And then with the aorist passives, we've got its own set of endings that mirror those root aorists. So there are a few different sorts of patterns to learn, but I would say, if we look at these, your muthas, your esthes, your ontais or ontos are quite common. Omens and amens and ens, all for your eyes. And then actually it's the second person singular that can be a little bit tricky, I'd say. And then your third person singular is etais and etos, or atos if you've got the alpha there. So that is what we've done to date on the passives, okay? What are your sort of thoughts and observations on these? Felicia, what do you make of all of this?
There are some quite similar endings, but there are ones that change with like every single one.
Yes, but I think that generally happens to be the second person singular, which is one of the least common ones, and of course which they might test in direct speech, because it's quite difficult to get that into a story without putting it into direct speech, if I'm honest. And even at A-level, people struggle with that second person singular. I mean, if I was teaching you A-level, that is where I would make you focus, because at A-level, we'd be doing lots of Greek tragedy, we'd be, where there's obviously lots of direct speech. So people are always saying things like, you did this and you did that and this was done to you, But we're at GCSE, we're not as worried about that. I think it's spotting third persons, etais and etos, ontais and ontos. But it's also basically, guys, let's face it, if you've got an augment, you've got a past tense with all of these passives. It's definitely going to be a past tense. Only the present and the future, which we'll look at next year, are going to not have an augment if they're a main verb. If they're a participle, that's slightly different. But all of them have got augments, haven't they? I think the theta's really distinctive for the passive. Yeah. I don't know. Thomas, what are your thoughts?
I think it's really helpful to have this all in one place in my notes, in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Instantly, I feel more confident. And now
Good. Okay.
Commit them to memory.
Yes. I mean, it depends on your style of learning. You see, in the old-fashioned days, they would have, a textbook would have just thrown the lot at you in one go. And it's not really very fashionable to do that anymore. But I personally am the sort of person who likes to see it all set out, and I'm quite happy to have it all thrown at me. But some people aren't. Henry, what are your thoughts on this?
I also like it all in one place, just because concise notes are usually easier to learn from.
Yes. Okay. Do you think it's now possible to learn it now you've kind of got it all in one place?
Yes.
Yeah. Or I'd hope at least the main thing is really, guys, is knowing all of these things off by heart is a really useful skill if you want to do A-level Greek prose composition. I'll be honest with you. You are never going to get a passive at GCSE in the Greek little sentences. There's no way, okay? But if you want to take your Greek further, then you have to be a sado like me, and you have to know, a bear, a bear's a bear, bear, a bear, a bear, Sam, and compete with equal sados who like reciting these things. But I'm reciting it because basically I enjoy doing the English into Greek, and I enjoyed that element of A level, and you need to be able to call them up in your head. But what you need to do at GCSE is you need to be able to recognise them in a sentence and be able to translate them correctly from a sentence. So I'm just going to have a quick look in the textbook and see if there are some passive sentences maybe that have got a mixture of tenses that we can just maybe have a quick go at doing now. Do you think that's a good idea? Yeah, with this in front of us. Grace, I haven't asked you or Asheen. Grace, what do you make of this? Is this helpful?
Yeah, I didn't have them written down anywhere where I knew where they were, so now I can just look at them.
Okay, excellent. And Asheen, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's way easier to have them all in one place.
Good.
So spread out across.
Good. Okay. All right then. So on page 255 in your textbook, does everybody have a textbook? Because if you haven't, I can quickly take a picture of this and put it up on my shared screen. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put it up on the shared screen anyway. How about that? I can easily take a picture and we can share this together so we can all see it. Okay, here we go. See who's taking pictures. Difficult to hold things. Right, there we go. All right, so I go back, I go into photos, we pull it up. There we go. We've all got it in front of us. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly check that there aren't any with a future, and I think we'll be all right for now. Okay, so let's have a look at number 1 together then. Hoi logoi, huparton paidon, man thanontai. So one of the things that we've not written in our notes is that, like Latin, often when you've got a passive, you're going to have the agent, the person who's done it to the person, in the ablative. And in Latin we have, don't we, are or ab plus the ablative. So for example, the king was carried by the slaves, are servis. So that's another kind of giveaway that you've got a passive going on here in Latin. Similarly in Greek, are or ab is represented by hupo plus the genitive. So what we've got here is the words, the logoi, man thanontai, no augment, so and no sigmas involved, frankly, because of course sigmas are going to be involved in the future. You knew that. The words are being learnt, huparton paidon, by the children. So that's a kind of classic setup for a passive you're going to have. Right, now there's some bits of vocabulary in number 2 that we've not yet learned. So I don't think we know what aspides are. High aspides are shields, the shields. We haven't done ziphe, but we are going to do it now. But I think we have done the verb copto. Can anybody remember what the verb copto means?
I cut.
Cut, yeah. So what's happening to the shields then? The shields, what's happening, Asheen, to them?
They're being cut.
Yeah, present tense. The shields are being cut. I kind of guess hacked at in this sense. And does anybody know what a xiphos is? It's a sword, everybody. Xiphos is a sword. So it's in the in the dative there, because of course there's no ablative in Greek. That is a dative ending for it. And of course, when we've got an instrument, i.e. a thing, not a person, that just goes into the dative. Just as in Latin, we don't need are or ab with a thing that something's being done by. So the shields are being cut by the sword. Okay. Right, totekos is a wall, So have a think. I'm going to do up Felix's tie while you have a go at translating that sentence. But Takos is singular. It means the wall. Have a go at the rest while we do this tie. Felix, don't click on anything.
No, I did.
Ugh.
No,
Right, off you go. I'll see you
no,
later.
it said okay or something.
Did it? Yes. Well, it's gone away now, and I've got to find it again. Right. Okay. Henry, then have a go, please, at that sentence. Sorry, it's disappeared. It's disconnected me for some reason. Here we go. Back again.
What did you say Teos was again?
Takos is a wall.
The wall.
Yeah.
Okay. The wall was guarded by is guard.
Is guarded. Yeah.
Yeah. Is being guarded by the weapons of the soldiers.
Exactly. So phulasatai, phulasos, your verb. There's no augment there. It's a present tense. Okay. Yes. All right. Number 4 then. Henaus ento limini, hupartone nautone leipatai. So I don't think officially we've done Henaus, but Henaus is the ship. So Felicia, do you want to have a go at number 4?
Okay. The ship. What's limini?
Ah, yes. Limen, limenos is the word for harbour.
Harbour. Okay. The ship in the harbour is being left by the sailors.
Yes, very good. Yeah, lepo, remember, can mean kind of like left behind as well. It's like this. What am I thinking of in Latin that's like that? Anyway, I've forgotten. Number 5 we'll skip because it's got a future in it that we've not yet done, a future passive that we've not yet done. Number 6, though, we can do. And I think you should know all the words. So, Grace, do you want to have a think about number 6? And if there are any words you've forgotten, just let me know.
The horses. The horses were released
Yes.
by what does
Hegemon. Hegemonus means a leader, and we get the English word hegemony from it, which is a very fancy word, I suppose, for leadership. Hegemony. You want to be fancy in your history writing, I'm sure. Yeah, so by the leader. So the horses were released by the leader. So I'm just going to shut the kitchen door because there's a terrible smell coming out, which I'll explain in a moment, although that sounds weird. Okay, so I woke up very early this morning. I was rather possessed by the idea of cleaning the oven, and now it's on a 2-hour program, which absolutely stinks cleaning it. All right, okay, yeah, so the distinctive theta that you've got there, an augment, so an aorist passive. Okay, number 7 then, a sheen. Hoi eich melotoi, pollen chronon e colladzonto.
The prisoners of war were being punished for a long time.
Very nice. Okay, what tense then, Oisin, is e colladzonto? What tense is it?
Imperfect.
Imperfect, because you've got the augment, but you've got no alphas going on there. So it's not a middle aorist, it's not anything like that. So it's an imperfect. Again, though, I don't think they'd ask you a tense at GCSE of a passive. I've not ever seen that question. Just actives. Number 8. We've actually got a contracted verb in there, which is something we'll do next year. So I'll leave out number 8. Number 9 doesn't seem to have any passives in it, which is a bit strange. Number 10 then. We can do number 10, I think. Henry, number 10.
The ones in the assembly are being persuaded by the ones speaking wisely.
Very nice, Henry. Yeah, but you've got a bit of participle stuff going on there with Lagonto. So I'd probably say those in the assembly are being persuaded by those speaking wisely. Very, very nice. Now, Peitho, of course, we've got to watch out for that one because it could have been middle, but there's a reason it's not middle. Can anybody remember why that translation there won't be a middle of Peitho? What does peithomai mean when it's actually, it's got a special middle meaning? Can anybody remember what that was?
Obey.
Obey, okay, but if it's obey, Thomas, what case does it have to take?
Do you obey to someone with the dative?
Exactly. So I'm sure you're all thinking, you know, is this obey or is this persuade? I'm sure that was what was going through your minds. But obviously we've not got that here. We've got a hupa, which is a big giveaway. We've got a passive form here, not a middle. We'd have needed some sort of dative object that they were persuading. Sorry, obeying somebody in the dative. Okay, right. So shall we, seeing as we've got time, shall we have a little look below at some of the middle and deponent ones while we're here? So I'll take another quick picture of those and we can carry on. There we go, let's have a look. Right, there we go. Put that up. There we go. Right. Okay. So number 1 then. Hoton sumakon angelos affikatot. This has got to be a Thomas translation with that word in it, surely. Thomas, have a go at number 1.
Sorry, I didn't realise I was
On
muted.
mute, yeah.
The messenger of the allies. What does affe mean? Affe.
So this is one of our deponent verbs, affik neomai. It means, anybody else shout it out? Arrive, everybody. Affik neomai means to arrive. And here we've got effectively the strong aorist of it. It's got a strong aorist form, affikomen. So the messenger of the allies arrived. I can't tell you how common that word is going to be at GCSE. Affikatot, everybody's affikatot frankly, in most stories that I read. So definitely one to go over. Number 2 has got a future, so we'll leave that. But hey, you know, why not? Let's just quickly look at it. So the future middle just adds a sigma onto the present stem. So pauomai becomes pausomai. So you're effectively sticking in a sigma. But we've got the verb thapto here. Can anybody remember what thapto means?
Very.
Very. Yeah, well done, guys. So it's actually got a middle form for its future, this verb. So thapsomai means I will bury. And Asheen, what am I going to bury? Tus necrus.
Corpses.
The corpses. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Now, Henry's definitely getting number 3 because this verb is one that is haunting him when he translates it. So, her stratia diakoras asphalus eporiueto, Henry.
The army marches through the... What's asphalus?
Yeah, I don't think we've really done those yet. These are some irregular adjectives. Koras obviously means country. Asphales is the nominative, it means safe. So the army, something through the safe country. But what tense, Henry, is eporiueto with that augment?
Marched, sorry.
Marched, exactly. So again, a sort of strong aorist form of that middle verb there. Okay. Number 4 then, grace. Henosos phainatai de nota te enai.
The disease seemed to be terrible.
Well, not just terrible, de nota te.
Very terrible.
Very terrible. It's a superlative, isn't it? Yes. Phainomai is to seem or appear. Very good. Number 5 will miss out for other reasons. Number 6. You've got a middle future there, as I said, just sticking the sigma in. So have a go at that one. Felicia.
The battle was will be stopped by like the few.
Right.
A few.
This is a special phrase that we're going to all need to learn. Dioligu is a set phrase, if you like, that it means soon, okay? It literally means kind of through a few, dioligu, through a few, but it comes to mean soon. So the battle will soon, and if it's a middle meaning, it's not going to be stopped, it's going to be, for Powo, cease.
Stop it. Yeah.
Cease, exactly.
Yeah.
Will stop itself. Yeah, so the battle will soon cease is what that means. Number 7. Thomas, number 7. Boulometha, Pantes.
We want to we all want to stay in Thade here.
Here, I agree. Yes, we all want to stay here. Very good. And now in number 8, another really common middle verb, apekrinato. So hegune uden apekrinato, Henry.
The woman replies to nobody.
Well, okay, first of all, let's look at the tense of apekrinato. So it does have an augment there, Henry, because it's been consumed within the apo. Apo's become ape. And then we've also got that alpha in the ending, which suggests it's what tense?
Aorist.
Aorist middle, exactly. So the woman replied, and uden is actually neuter, it's singular, and it's technically accusative. From udeis and uden, the woman replied nothing. Okay, so maybe we'll go over heis mia hen and udeis udemia uden. Then number 9, Grace, hopais ane egenato. Oh.
The boy got to know the man.
Well, got to know would be the verb gignosko. And that's got an aorist of egno, negnos, egno. It was one of those root aorists. This is from gignomai, to become or happen. So the
boy became a man.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Finally, then number 10, Asheen. Hoi politai tois tu strategu logois peithontai.
The citizens are being persuaded by the words of the general.
Okay, but if they're being persuaded by them, what probably is the more likely meaning, especially now we've got peithomai plus the dative?
Oh, they obeyed.
Yeah, because that makes sense, doesn't it? If you're persuaded by something, you obey it. So probably we should translate this, the citizens obey the words of the general. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave it there, everybody, because it's 1 minute to 9. I hope that was somewhat helpful. And then the plan was we'll do a kind of similar thing with the participles, period 3, if that's okay. Sound good?
Yep.
Yep. Good. All
Yep.
right. Thank you, everybody. Okay. I'll see you period 3.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.